Blood dripped from Taewan's nose as he finished the 500th jump. His legs trembled, but he refused to fall. The alien recruits watched with narrow eyes and whispers. "Still standing?" "Surprising," growled Sergeant Mokhtal, his scaled skin gleaming under the harsh lights of training moon Epsilon 12. Taewan wiped the blood away, saying nothing. He was the first human ever accepted into the Galactic Confederation Special Forces, and everything here, from the air mix to the gravity, was designed for beings stronger than humans. "Pathetic creature," rumbled Ultar, flexing all four of his massive arms. The Drakari alien towered over Taewan by nearly 3 feet. "Your bones would snap if I merely patted your back," the snake-like Niskor hissed with laughter. "How many days until he quits? I bet good credits he won't last a week." Taewan had expected this. Humans were the newest species in the Confederation. Most aliens saw them as weak, primitive things that somehow got lucky in one battle against the swarm. 10-mile run, full combat gear," barked Sergeant Mokhtal, throwing Taewan armor designed for aliens with twice his muscle mass. "Now!" By sunset, Taewan's body was one massive bruise. His lungs felt scorched, his muscles torn. Yet he finished every task. As he limped back to his quarters, a silver-skinned female alien fell into step beside him. "You're either very brave or very stupid," she said, her voice surprisingly gentle. "I'm Yunri." Taewan glanced at her. "Is there a difference here?" She almost smiled. "Perhaps not. Why volunteer for this torture? No human has tried before." He thought of soul burning, of his sister's face as alien miners destroyed the city, considering humans expendable. But he kept those memories locked away. "Someone has to be first," was all he said. That night, as he applied healing gel to his wounds, the barracks filled with laughter. 3 cycles, wagered Ultar loudly. 3 cycles before the human breaks. Taewan removed the small holophoto of his sister from his hidden pocket. "I won't break," he whispered to her image. "And soon they'll learn what humans are really made of." In the darkness, he smiled slightly. Let them mock him. Let them underestimate humans. Their mistake. Taewan's oxygen mask hissed, then cut out completely. He was 50 feet underwater in the toxic training pool, with 3 minutes of exercises still to go. Not an accident, the 3rd equipment failure. This week, he kept swimming. His lungs burned, spots danced in his vision, but he completed the drill. When he broke the surface, gasping, Ultar and his friends looked disappointed. "Still alive, human?" the 4-armed alien sneered. 2 weeks had passed. The alien recruits had moved from simple mockery to active sabotage. They put chemicals in his food that would poison most species. They damaged his equipment before dangerous drills. They set training robots to maximum difficulty when he practiced alone. What they didn't know, Taewan had prepared. Before leaving Earth, he had received special treatments, enhanced lung capacity, reinforced bones, advanced toxin filters in his liver. Nothing that changed his basic human nature, just improvements to natural systems. "You missed target practice," said Yunri, approaching him as he dried off. The silver-skinned alien had become almost friendly, the only one who spoke to him as an equal. "My targeting scope was broken," Taewan replied. "Again?" She tilted her head. "Yet you ranked 3rd yesterday with a broken scope." "Impressive." Before he could respond, alarms blared. The training facility's central computer announced, "Emergency deployment drill. All recruits to Shuttle Bay. You have 3 minutes." Chaos erupted. The 20 alien recruits rushed to grab equipment and report for duty. Taewan moved quickly but carefully, checking each piece of his gear. In the Shuttle Bay, Sergeant Mokhtal waited with a cold smile. "Today's drill. Survive on Inferno Island for 48 hours. Limited supplies, hostile wildlife, environmental hazards." The sergeant's yellow eyes fixed on Taewan. "No support teams. Work together or die alone." The shuttle dropped them on a volcanic island. Black sand burned through boot soles. Acid rain fell from orange clouds. The air itself smelled of sulfur and metal. "Teams of 4, ordered Ultar, taking charge. "Except the human. He works alone." No one argued. Taewon watched them divide the supplies, leaving him with the minimum required by regulations. 1 day's water, no food, a broken compass. "Good luck," said Ultar with a cruel smile. "Try not to die too quickly." As the teams moved out, Yunri glanced back once, her expression unreadable. Then she followed her team into the volcanic wasteland. Night fell quickly on Inferno Island. The temperature dropped from scorching to freezing in minutes. Taewon built a small shelter beneath a rock outcropping, using techniques he'd learned growing up in Korea's mountains. He didn't use his water ration. Instead, he collected acid rain in a special filter he'd hidden in his boot. Standard equipment for human explorers, but unknown to the aliens. From his high position, he watched the other teams struggle. They had better supplies but less experience with rapidly changing conditions. Many species evolved on worlds with stable environments, making adaptation difficult. Humans, by contrast, had survived ice ages, droughts, floods, and every disaster Earth could produce. By dawn, 3 aliens were already injured from wildlife attacks. Taewon moved silently past their camps, tracking the island's dangerous predators by signs most aliens missed: broken twigs, disturbed soil, certain smells. On the second day, disaster struck. The volcano at the island's center, thought dormant, showed signs of activity. Toxic gas vents opened across the training ground. 2 alien recruits collapsed, their respiratory systems failing. Taewon heard the emergency calls. Without hesitation, he changed course and headed toward the danger. He found Ultar's team trapped in a ravine filling with poisonous gas. The mighty Drakari was unconscious, with Yunri trying desperately to drag his massive body to safety. "Leave him," Taewon said, appearing at the ravine's edge. "Save yourself." Yunri looked up, silver face stained with chemical burns. "I can't lift him." Taewon's mind calculated rapidly. The gas would kill him faster than the aliens. But he had one advantage: the genetic treatments that had enhanced his muscles beyond normal human limits. He slid down into the ravine. "Climb. Out," he told Yunri. "Now." As she scrambled up the slope, Taewon hoisted Ultar onto his shoulders. The alien weighed over 400 pounds. Taewon's enhanced muscles screamed in protest as he began climbing. His vision tunneled. His lungs felt like they were dissolving. But step by step, he carried his enemy to safety. When they reached the top, Taewon collapsed. Ultar was breathing, but Taewon couldn't feel his own legs anymore. Yunri stared at him in shock. "Why? Why save him? He's tried to kill you since." "Day 1. Taewon coughed, tasting blood. "Because that's what humans do. We protect even those who hate us. It's our greatest strength and our greatest weakness." Later, as medical teams evacuated the injured, Taewon found something in his hand, his sister's holophoto, which had been stolen from his quarters days ago. Beside it was a note in Ultar's language. He didn't need a translation. The message was clear. Something had changed. The combat arena looked like a nightmare. Lava pools bubbled between sharp rock formations. Poisonous gas hung in the air. Robot enemies waited in hidden spots, armed with weapons set to cause real pain. Taewon stood at the entrance, alone. After he had saved Ultar on Inferno Island, last week the alien recruits had stopped their worst bullying, but they still didn't accept him as an equal. "Final combat test," announced Sergeant Mokhtal. "Reach the center tower and capture the flag. Work alone or in teams. Your choice." The aliens quickly formed their usual groups. No one asked Taewon to join. He watched them rush into the arena, each team taking a different path toward the distant tower. Taewon didn't follow. Instead, he climbed a tall rock near the entrance and sat down. He simply watched. "What is the human doing?" one alien whispered to another. "Giving up, probably," came the reply. But Taewon wasn't giving up. He was studying, watching how the robot enemies moved, noticing which paths triggered traps, seeing which areas the other recruits avoided. After 30 minutes, he finally moved. He didn't take any of the obvious paths. Instead, he followed a route no one else had tried, through a narrow crack in the western wall. The passage was tight, barely wide enough for his shoulders. Most of the larger aliens couldn't have fit. The air grew hotter as he squeezed through, emerging on a ledge overlooking the central area. Below him, several teams of aliens fought fiercely against waves of combat robots. They were strong and well-armed, but they fought like their species always fought, using the same tactics their ancestors had used for thousands of years. The robots were learning these patterns and adapting. Taiwan took a different approach. Humans had always been physically weaker than their enemies. They survived by changing tactics, by using the environment, by thinking differently. He gathered small rocks and tossed them to trigger traps in empty areas. He used reflective pieces of his gear to create false targets for the robot's sensors. He moved in irregular patterns that confused the targeting systems. From her position with another team, Yunri noticed his progress. The silver-skinned alien watched with growing interest as Taiwan advanced steadily, while stronger recruits were forced to retreat. Halfway to the tower, Taiwan heard a cry of pain. Through the smoke, he saw Ultar pinned under a fallen stone column. 2 robot sentries were closing in on the trapped Drakari. Taiwan had a clear path to the tower. He could easily bypass this area and continue toward victory. No one would blame him for not helping the alien who had tormented him for weeks. He changed direction and headed toward Ultar. The robots saw him coming and opened fire. Taiwan dropped and rolled, using the uneven ground as cover. He reached the first robot and jammed his utility knife into its sensor array, blinding it. The second robot turned toward him, weapon charging. Taiwan threw his last smoke grenade, then circled behind the confused machine and disabled its power core. "Why help me?" Ultar growled as Taiwan examined the column pinning his leg. "Shut up and push when I tell you," Taiwan replied. He wedged his training staff under the edge of the column, creating a lever. Now, together they shifted the heavy stone just enough for Ultar to pull free. The Drakari's leg was badly injured, the bone visible through torn scales. "Go!" Ultar said, voice rough with pain. "Finish the test." Taiwan shook his head. "Not alone." He helped the much larger alien stand, letting Ultar lean on his shoulder. "You cannot carry me and fight," Ultar protested. "Watch me," Taiwan said. What followed amazed everyone watching the test. Taiwan adapted instantly to each new threat. When robots attacked from the front, he used Ultar's bulk as a shield, while the Drakari used his 3 good arms to fire back. When acid rain began to fall, Taiwan used pieces of broken robots to create cover. They reached the central tower together, the unlikely pair moving as one fighter with Taiwan as the legs and Ultar as the arms. At the base of the tower, they found the rest of the recruits pinned down by heavy fire from defensive turrets. "We need a distraction," said Yunri, who had led another team this far. Taiwan looked at the tower's structure. His eyes narrowed. "No. We need cooperation." He quickly explained his plan. At first, the aliens resisted, not wanting to follow. A human strategy, but Ultar surprised everyone. "Listen to him," the Drakari commanded. "The human sees things we don't." Working together for the first time, the recruits followed Taiwan's plan. The snake-like Nice core slithered up drainage pipes. The heavy Kelvari used their armored bodies as moving shields. Yunri's telepathic abilities detected hidden traps, and Taiwan coordinated it all, calling out patterns and weaknesses only a human would notice. When they finally reached the flag, Sergeant Mokhtal was waiting, his yellow eyes gleaming with something new: respect. "First time in 50 cycles any team has succeeded," the sergeant said, "and led by a human no less." That night in the barracks, something had changed. Taiwan sat with the other recruits during the meal. Ultar, his leg in a healing cast, raised his cup. "To the human," he said, using Taiwan's name for the first time, "who showed us the power of thinking differently." Yunri smiled at Taiwan. "Perhaps the Confederation needs humans more than we knew." The sun was setting over the quiet village of Elderglow. Lila, a young baker with flour-dusted hands, locked her small bakery and stepped into the cool evening air. She carried a basket, with a single loaf of bread, her best creation yet. Tonight was no ordinary night. It was the night of the real test, a secret challenge whispered about in Elderglow for generations. Only a few were ever chosen, and Lila had found a strange note under her bakery door that morning. Bring your finest bread to the old oak at dusk. The real test awaits. Lila's heart raced as she walked through the village. The old oak stood at the edge of the forest, its branches twisting like ancient fingers. She had heard stories about the test, tales of magic, riddles, and rewards beyond imagination. Some said it was a trick played by forest spirits. Others believed it was a path to greatness. Lila didn't know what to believe, but her curiosity pulled her forward. When she reached the old oak, the tree seemed to glow faintly under the fading light. A figure stood beneath it, cloaked in shadow. Lila tightened her grip on the basket. I brought the bread, she said, her voice steady despite her shaking knees. The figure stepped forward. It was an old woman with eyes like polished stones. Her face was kind but sharp, as if she could see through Lila's thoughts. I am Mira, she said. The bread is your offering, but the real test is not about baking, it is about heart. Are you ready? Lila nodded, though she wasn't sure what Mira meant. Mira pointed to a path leading into the dark forest. Follow it. You will find 3 challenges. Pass them, and your reward will change your life. Fail, and you will forget this night ever happened. Lila took a deep breath and stepped onto the path. The forest was silent except for the crunch of leaves under her feet. Soon she came to a small clearing. A fox sat on a stump, its eyes glinting. Give me your bread, it said in a clear, human-like voice. Lila hesitated. The bread was her offering, her key to the test. But the fox looked thin, its ribs showing under its fur. She tore off half the loaf and handed it over. The fox ate quickly, then smiled. You passed the first challenge. Kindness is stronger than greed. It vanished into the shadows. Lila continued, her basket lighter now. The path led to a narrow bridge over a rushing river. A boy stood in the middle, blocking her way. Solve my riddle or the bridge will crumble, he said. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. What am I? Lila thought hard. She remembered her father telling her riddles by the fire. The answer came to her like a spark. An echo, she said. The boy grinned and stepped aside. You passed the second challenge. Wisdom opens paths. The bridge stayed strong as she crossed. The final challenge waited in a glade bathed in moonlight. A tall mirror stood alone, reflecting Lila's nervous face. Mira's voice echoed, though she was nowhere in sight. Look into the mirror. Face your fear. Lila stared at her reflection. Slowly, it changed. She saw herself standing in an empty bakery, her shelves bare, her dreams of being the best baker in Elderglow gone. This was her fear. Failure. Letting everyone down. Tears stung her eyes, but she didn't look away. I won't give up, she whispered. Even if I fail, I'll keep trying. The mirror shimmered and the image faded. Mira appeared, her stone-like eyes soft now. You passed the real test, she said. Kindness, wisdom, and courage. These are the true ingredients of a great heart. Mira handed Lila a small wooden box. Open it when you're ready, she said. Then with a gust of wind, Mira was gone. Lila stood alone under the old oak, the box heavy in her hands. She walked home, her mind spinning with questions. The next morning, Lila opened the box in her bakery. Inside was a single golden seed. She planted it behind her shop, unsure what it would do. Days later, a tree sprouted, its branches heavy with strange sweet fruit. The village loved it, and Lila's bakery became famous, not just for bread, but for the magic she shared. Layla never saw Mira again, but she never forgot the real test. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about who she chose to be. Lila stood behind her bakery counter in Elderglow, the scent of fresh bread filling the air. The golden seed from the real test had changed her life. The strange tree behind her shop bore sweet fruit, drawing visitors from far and wide. But whispers of something new stirred in the village. A note had appeared under Lila's door at dawn. "Meet me at the stone circle at midnight. Strength revealed awaits." Lila's heart skipped. The memory of the real test, its challenges, its magic, flashed in her mind. She wasn't sure if this was another test or a trap, but her courage pushed her forward. At midnight, she slipped out carrying a small loaf of bread as a habit, her lantern casting a warm glow. The stone circle lay beyond the village, a ring of ancient rocks said to hum with secrets. When Lila arrived, the stone stood silent under the moon. A tall man waited, his cloak dark as the night. His eyes gleamed like firelight. "I am Tauren," he said, his voice deep. "You passed the real test. Now strength revealed will show what you're truly made of. Are you ready?" Lila nodded, her hands tight around the lantern. Tauren raised a hand, and the air shimmered. A path appeared, winding into a misty valley. "Face 3 trials," he said. "They will test your strength. Succeed, and you'll gain power to protect what matters. Fail, and the valley will keep you." Lila stepped onto the path, the mist curling around her feet. The first trial came quickly. A huge boulder blocked the way, too heavy for one person to move. A crow perched on it, tilting its head. "Push it aside," it croaked. Lila pressed her hands against the rock, her muscles straining. It didn't budge. She thought of giving up, but then remembered her bakery, how she kneaded dough for hours, never quitting. She pushed again, harder, imagining the boulder as dough yielding to her hands. Slowly, it rolled aside. The crow cawed. "Strength of will, you pass." The path led deeper, the mist thicker now. The second trial was a wide chasm, a rickety rope bridge swaying over it. A girl stood at the edge, her face pale. "Cross with me," she said. "I'm scared." Lila saw the bridge's frayed ropes and felt fear grip her, but the girl's trembling hands made Lila step forward. She took the girl's hand, her own fear fading as she focused on keeping her safe. They crossed slowly, the bridge creaking. When they reached the other side, the girl vanished. A voice echoed, "Strength of care, you pass." The final trial waited in a clearing. A fire burned in the center, its flames unnaturally tall. Tauren's voice rang out, though he wasn't there. "Walk through the fire. Prove your strength of spirit." Lila stared at the flames, her heart pounding. She thought of her village, her bakery, the people who relied on her. She thought of the golden seed and the tree it grew. Proof that she could face the impossible. Clutching her loaf of bread like a shield, she stepped into the fire. The heat was intense, but it didn't burn. Lila walked forward, her fear melting with each step. She saw flashes in the flames, her bakery thriving, her village safe, herself standing tall. When she emerged on the other side, the fire died down. Tauren appeared, his fiery eyes softer now. "You have shown true strength," he said, "not of body, but of will, care, and spirit." He handed Lila a small silver ring, simple but warm, to the touch. "Wear it," he said. "It will guide you when danger comes." Before Lila could ask more, Tauren vanished, and the valley dissolved. She stood alone in the stone circle, the ring glinting on her finger. The next day, Lila baked as usual, but the ring felt alive, humming faintly. Weeks later, a storm hit Elderglow, fiercer than any before. Floodwaters rose, threatening homes. Lila felt the ring pulse. Without thinking, she rallied the village, leading them to build barriers with sacks of flour and wood. Her voice carried over the wind, calm and sure. The village held strong, and no home was lost. Lila never saw Tauren again, but the ring stayed with her. Strength revealed wasn't about muscles or magic. It was about the power inside her, ready to shine when needed most.